Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all the support. We really appreciate all of you. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's bonus review, I just want to give a shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. It's got literally everything about this podcast that you need to know. We've got all our episodes, our interviews if you want to listen to our shows. We've got our store if you want to get some merch. We just got some new merch. We just got we've recently added Shan to the show. She's got her Etsy page attached. She makes awesome tumblers. Definitely check those out. We got our blog. Check that out. We've written some not articles, but, some think pieces, some of our thoughts and opinions on stuff. Definitely check that out as well. And, we've got all of our social medias on there, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. We love interacting with our fans, and I just happened to look at our Facebook post for tonight's episode, and it got a lot more comments than I realized. So we got a lot to read later. There's a lot of thoughts on this movie. Decided to, read our fans' thoughts on this. And one last thing, we got a Patreon, 2 types. We got the traditional monthly reoccurring. It really helps us, pay for this podcast. It's not free to make a decent sounding podcast. We got site hosting, our website, what we record our podcast on, the streaming. So it definitely helps us, takes a big burden off of us. We really appreciate the help. Or if you just want to make a one-time donation, if you want us to review a movie you like or you want to come on our show with us, we've done several reviews with fans and we've got some on the docket to do in the next couple months. But business is done. Let's jump into tonight's film review. I think if you've been a part of horror on social media, you've seen post about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie on Netflix. And that's what we're reviewing tonight, 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not going to talk a lot about it tonight or right now because I have written 2 Stephen A. Smith soliloquies on it at the end on my full thoughts. So I'll just say I don't really like this movie. There's a lot wrong with it, in my opinion. But the gore is great. It's a well-shot movie. And I think Mike said this on Twitter already. It gets the 3 words of the title right. There is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it nails that part, but there's a lot of stuff with it that I didn't really like. And I will touch on all of that later. And y'all will probably get sick to death of hearing me bitching, but I'll save it for the end. Bryan, go ahead and go next.
Yeah, first off, I've said it before on here, but, maybe to some new listeners, I'm not a fan of this franchise. To me, this franchise consists of the 03 remake and the prequel, 06's beginning, and that's it. I literally don't like any of the other entries. Now, that may immediately disqualify my opinion on this one in your eyes, and that's okay. We definitely have other opinions on the show. But to me, this movie was absolutely phenomenal until the final act. And yeah, we'll get into that, into why, but there's a lot I really like about this requel, which I said on Twitter, but let me say on here, I love that the new Scream has mainstreamed that term. I mean, that's redefining horror yet again. But anyway,
as usual,
I don't mind that it's copied, Halloween 18 and brought back Sally Hardesty. Rest in peace, Marilyn Burns. I love that it's not the same old bullshit chainsaw story you've seen a million times. I love that they did something a little different. I like the main characters of Lila and Melody, more than I anticipated, actually. Now, there's a lot I didn't care for, and we'll get into the negatives during the review. But overall, it ended up on the just okay scale for me by the end of it.
Okay, so I'm kind of like you, Bryan, or I don't love this franchise. Now, I don't hate it as much as I think you two do, but it has, out of the, I guess, look, our logo is Freddie Michael Jason, but if you had to have a fourth, you could kind of sub out Chucky, Leatherface, Ghostface, Pinhead, why, I don't know, but,
Jigsaw,
Jigsaw, et cetera, et cetera. You could kind of swap whoever you wanted in that 4th spot on Mount Rushmore. To me, this franchise has the most stinkers out of those that I would put on there. I love the first one. I don't think it's a very enjoyable film, but
Hellraiser.
No. Well, that's true. Hellraiser.
No, that's one of the most stinkers.
That's definitely the one with the most stinkers. You're right. I'm kind of thinking more along the slasher lines, but yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt. But So I enjoy the original. I think it's it stands the test of time. It does what it's supposed to do, which is make me feel uncomfortable and uneasy. And I like what it does. It's not a very enjoyable film, and I think sometimes that's okay. But I'm with everyone else on this episode that I think the '03 remake gets everything about a slasher right. That I just love it from start to finish. I think it's great. And you can check that out in our archives at don'tgooutthere.com. Sorry, Brian's busy reading the text. I had to do it. And I like some of the other films. I like Leatherface more than most. But here's my thing. This movie, to me, started off the even before Friday really got going, which means some of you stayed up until 12 or 1 to watch the movie. And that's great. That's a good thing for horror. Netflix sees that in their numbers they get back. That's good for horror. And so this kind of gets me to my point before I kind of give you how I feel about the film. We need to be able to have a discourse within the horror community about film without being so one-sided on whatever side you fall on. Whether you love this movie, whether you hate this movie, we have got to stop being so polarizing. There's 2 articles, and it wasn't The Onion, that said it was the worst horror movie ever made. That is horseshit. Now, look, you can hate this movie. I have no problem with that. If you watch this movie and you didn't enjoy a single second of it, I get it. That's totally fine. But that's hyperbole to say something like it's the worst horror movie ever. Now, on the other side, to say it's the best horror movie ever is hyperbole. And I feel like we only got that because you were getting so much of the negative. And that has happened the last, I don't know, since 2018, really. Since Halloween 2018, we've gotten that black or white, no discourse, no middle point with horror movies. And I don't get it. It's more so within the slasher franchises. It's not the Conjuring movies. It's not, anything like that. It's more so in the big slasher franchises. And what I'm here to say is these movies being made is good for horror movies, period. Whether you like them, whether you hate them, the fact that they exist is incredible for us as a horror movie podcast, by the way. I mean, we'll never run out of content if they keep making these movies, which we love. That's what we're here for. But at some point, we have got to stop coming so far down on one side or the other. We have got to be able to have normal people. Like, I know at the end, Nicoh has some big negatives in the film, and I absolutely respect that opinion and respect him for it. But he's also going to give some positives, which he's already done. And I just don't see enough of that. I mean, let's sit back and think for a minute. In the last 3 years, we've gotten a new Halloween, a new Scream, a new Texas Chainsaw, a Chucky TV series, which, again, Bryan hated. And but he likes other Chucky movies, but he hates the TV series. But guess what? It got picked up for another season because it was so successful. People watched it. So my suggestion to everyone is it's not that you can't have your opinion on a horror movie. It is continue to watch these things. Continue to talk about them. Continue to keep them in the spotlight, because the more you do that, the more we'll get. Now, that may be a bad thing to you if we got another Texas Chainsaw, but I don't think so. The more Texas Chainsaws we get, the more likely we are to get a Friday the 13th, a Nightmare on Elm Street. The more, maybe another Halloween, more Screams, more. And I know we crave original content, but what keeps us coming back to the genre is the ones we grew up on. It's the nostalgia. And if it's done correctly, and look, you may not like this film, but it was so frustrating. You're pitting Halloween against Scream. You're pitting Halloween against this movie, which, I mean, come on, that's not fair. One's a big budget studio and one's a Netflix original. Like, we're not, you're comparing the Mona Lisa and a third grade painting. It's not the same thing. So again, I just wanted to do a mini rant. I'm sorry to take up so much of my open with it. Here's what I'll say about the movie. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Now, I have 2 kind of compartments in my head of how I feel about it. To me, is a good slasher movie. It does everything a slasher movie is supposed to do. It's gory, it's fun, it's violent, it's brutal. And by the way, it's under an hour and a half. I love that part. That's fantastic. Thank God for that. And the original Texas Chainsaw is not that long, or at least not to me. So that kind of is on point. Now, this was supposed to be a follow-up to the 1974 original, and in that category, it fails tremendously. It's not even close to the same kind of movie. It doesn't hit any of the same notes, nothing. The only thing cool, and I'm not even going to wait until we get to it, I'm going to spoil a fun fact here. They have the same chainsaw. That is cool. That was a fun Easter egg. I enjoyed that they included that. I'll say I like the young cast of characters. I think they kind of carry the film. I get that they're unlikable to a lot of people, and I get that. But at some point, I do start to pull for them when you see just how vicious Leatherface is. At some point, you kind of like, I'm not pulling for Leatherface anymore. I want these two female leads to succeed together. So I like that part of the film. I like that there's not a lot of plot, honestly. Normally, I would complain about that. But after the first 12 minutes, we're right into it. We're right into Leatherface. We're right into people dying. Like, I like that. I will say a small negative is Sally Hardesty's plot within this movie. I think they kind of, it was unnecessary. Now, having her come back isn't unnecessary. What they gave her to do, which is the Laurie Strode you order from Wish.com, no offense, but that's just what it ended up being. I stole that joke. I don't remember where I got it from, somewhere on the internet. But it really was Halloween 2018 light. Even though I waited 50 years for this night, which is the same as saying I waited 40 years for this night. Like, little too on the nose for me. Even some of the kills were similar. So but you have to piggyback off of successful things. Halloween 2018 was so damn successful. It's the reason we got Scream, and it's the reason we got this film. And I'm excited to talk about it because I do think there's some. I love the look of Leatherface. I think he actually wears human leather face in this film, and that is awesome. So sorry I took up so much of your time. Let's talk I almost called it Halloween. Let's talk Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, thanks, Mike, for saying that, because I think we all feel the same way. I think Nicoh kind of said a lot of the same things during the Halloween Kills review, if I'm not mistaken. It's just the venom. It's like so, like you said, one-sided, one way or the other. It's so, there's no gray area anymore, people. It's crazy.
And before you go, Nicoh, a reviewer that I follow on YouTube, Cody Leach, kind of gets a lot of venom, and unnecessarily so, because he doesn't like the two most recent Halloweens that much. He didn't, he didn't love the new Scream enough. Like, that's not good. That's not healthy either. The man's entitled to his opinion. He gave pros, he gave cons, he gave gray areas of all the films I just mentioned, including this one. And so I just think that goes both ways. Just because someone doesn't agree with your opinion doesn't mean they don't know what the fuck they are talking about. Like, Bryan doesn't like the original movie in this franchise. I think he's insane. I still love him.
But hey, that's kind of what half of this plot, there's a subplot here about you couldn't be two more different people, but yet they still find common ground. Hey, it's
true.
Mike, I'll just say, whenever you were, doing your rant, I was thinking this motherfucker spitting. But the only thing I'll disagree with is if you're on like the Facebook groups, the horror groups, they hate everything new, not just slashers.
Yeah,
Malignant, Conjuring 3 got hated on, Antlers, nobody. And this is just our world now. Social media, nobody likes anything.
Nobody's safe from trolls, but I think rational people have an opinion on, well, I didn't like it, but hey, I'm glad we're getting more horror content. Which, again, I think is my ultimate point is, if we shit on everything, eventually we're going to be like, you know what? I give up. I'm not going to make any more of these movies. So, guys, if you want Friday the 13th to come back, like actually come back, which I love the fan films. I do. I think they're great. But if you want that to come back on the big screen where you go in the theater and you sit down with your popcorn and you take your kids to have the same experience that you had watching Friday the 13th movies, continue to watch these other movies, and that interest will grow. I promise. Oh, we also got Heather Langenkamp to say she wanted to be Nancy again on our show, which you can go listen to at don'tgooutthere.com.
Yeah, I honestly, Mike, was thinking about writing an article similar to your article. Is Are the slashers dead? I was going to write, is horror dead? And it's not that it is. It's just as soon as a movie comes out, it just gets ripped apart as soon as it hits social
Yeah,
media. Like, if fans aren't happy with anything they get, why keep making movies? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
I
obviously
agree.
not dead, but
Yeah, and we're in that
it's more like
space.
a
We're critical.
yeah.
We review movies, but we have fun with it, and we will go out of our way to try to find some positives in every movie we watch. Damn it, I said something positive about Thanksgiving. If that's not swallowing your pride, I don't know what is.
Yeah, or Color Out of Space. That was a rough one.
it was a little rough.
Respectfully,
It's
of
better
course,
than
Sean.
Thanksgiving.
Respectfully.
Of course, it's better than Thanksgiving. Anyway,
All right, let's jump into the scene by scene. We got a lot to talk about with this movie. Film starts with old school footage of the summer of 1973 and a recap of the kids murdered. He narrates on the weapons used in the lone survivor, Sally Hardesty. She's not spoken about what happened since she spoke to the police. Officials released a portrait of what the killer looked like. We now see Lila walk around this gas station getting snacks and a cool wine cork remover. She asks the attendant what happened to Sally. He says she became a ranger and has been looking for him for over 48 to 50 years. Melody walks in and he asks where they're going. Harlow, they say. He calls them gentry fuckers. Dante walks back to the car and a truck blaring rock music pulls in beside them. Melody comments on his truck and carrying a gun, saying he's compensating. He says it's for feral hogs. They drive away after she comments she's seen bigger guns than what he had. Lila is scrolling through the gram and covers her gunshot wound. Melody comforts Lila and Dante says their post is blowing up. They have a big vision. The guy in the truck passes them and rolls coal on them. A sheriff and a deputy flag them down. The sheriff recognizes him as the cook, and they tell Dante they know a lot of people are coming, so they're sticking around to make sure they don't cause any trouble. He says they grew up here and to respect the town. Melody now tells him that their grandmother is from here, and the sheriff welcomes them to Harlow. They drive away and finally make it to the barren town of Harlow. Dante says he has a vision this ghost town just needs young blood. They want to inspire others to come here, somewhere to start fresh away from the violence. Richter, the guy from the gas station, comes out and he's Dante's contractor. Kind of an awkward first meeting. He asks if they're a cult. He says, no judgment, just pay me and we're good. They see a Confederate flag and they get upset. They have to remove it to not upset the potential buyers. Dante and Melody walk into this orphanage to try and remove the flag. Dante can't reach it though. Melody looks through the house and Jenny appears and asks what they're doing in her house. They thought it was an empty building. She calls them the new neighbors. She offers them sweet tea and tells them how she operated the orphanage for over 50 years. Melody says the bank reclaimed this property and this should be vacant. She says that's a mix up and she has the title, and they call her out. She asks if this is about her flag. She says she's got her all wrong. Dante is pissed and storms out and says he'll let the cops handle it. Jenny approaches Melody and says the flag reminds her of her grandfather, and she cranks up her oxygen. She ain't going anywhere, she says, and now we see this giant man at the top of the stairs. She says she's all right and to go back to his room. The sheriff and deputy barge in and tell her she's got to go. They grab her and she vomits and falls over. The giant man grabs her and they load her in the back of this van, which is now the ambulance. She's having a heart attack. For some reason, this is a nitpick. For some reason, Ruth decides to go with them so Dante and Melody can occupy the busload of people. Richter drops the flag right in front of Dante and they all walk away. Lila asks if that was a bad omen. Lila says she'll move back with Dad if Melody moves here. She tells Lila she needs her and can't take care of herself, and Lila storms away. All right, Brian, that's the opening scenes I got. Go ahead, brother.
All right, right off the bat, I love the Larroquette DVD voiceover kind of, catching us up. But I don't love that it's just randomly playing like what all the time in this gas station. And I have to say it's a little bit of blue balls because one of the very few complaints I do have about the first half of this movie is the atmosphere. And I say blue balls because how cool would it have been to have seen this whole entire movie shot with the filters that were used for that intro? I just feel like it's missing that dark, gritty, just gross feeling from the other quote good chainsaw entries. Even in the 74 original, just everything feels hot as fuck and just ridden with flies and just, gross. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that this delivered on that atmosphere right there. I've seen a lot of complaints about the characters, and I have to admit, I'll say it right off the bat because they hit on it right off the bat with their comments, about Richter's gun. I don't feel like this movie is one of those, really making some hard line political statement. I think it's subtle. I think it does a good job of showing the real divide in current times, kind of what Mike was touching on in his opening. It also does a really good job, I think, of showing all groups coming together, coming and finding some pretty solid middle ground. And I have to admit, at first here, I was a little worried that it wasn't going to go well after this opening scene, to be honest. I really ended up liking all of these characters a lot more than I thought I would, especially Melody and Lila. I really like their characters' arcs, and I really think the writer, I believe Chris Thomas Devlin is credited with the screenplay, but I think they did a really good job with the surprising amount of character development that's in this really short movie. I mean, it's like what, an hour and 23 minutes, including the credits. That's impressive to me. Like, this group seems like the modern day version of what hippies were in like the early 70s and 80s movies. And I think that that's how we'll look back on this. And, I think that this movie will age really well. I liked Lila's school shooting backstory. It was different, and I was really intrigued. And I liked that they, hey, look, that's absolutely legit trauma, like PTSD from war or from abuse at home. I mean, that we've seen in movies a million times. I really liked it. It was different. And speaking of different, I really like how this is set in Harlow. And, like I said in my opening, not the same old bullshit story. I don't say bullshit. I mean, that's not fair, but it's just not the same old story that we've seen a million times in this franchise. And apparently some of these quote unquote fans, want that same old story over and over and over again. I mean, okay. It's like Nicoh said in our Halloween Kills review. I mean, you can't fault a movie for trying to do something different. And I really like it. The issues I have with this movie have nothing to do with the setting or the characters. Well, not yet anyway. A little nitpick I did have right here. It bothered me that Dante said that they had no cell reception at all. He had to find this little pocket of cell service to call the bus. And then, they all get in the car, but suddenly they can surf the web. And also, like, our post is blowing up. And it had like 13 comments and barely any views. But okay, yeah, it's blowing up. Just stupid little nitpick I had. Attention to detail. I did like their interaction with the sheriff and taking Melody, and it took Melody relating to him with the Harlow saying, the whole saying that she said to him to smooth things over. That's real life. It's like that. Trust me, I live 30 minutes south of a town exactly like that, which I think, I said in our O3 review as well. I love the quote, "We are idealistic individuals who want a better world." Yeah, that's a cult. Yeah, it cracked my ass up. I love that. Lastly, I'd like to shout out William Hope, fucking Gorman from fucking Aliens, the dude who blew himself up with Vasquez. By the way, you can check out her interview at don'tgooutthere.com. But he played Sheriff Hathaway in this. What an absolute great character name. You don't see the great legendary Hathaway name on the big screen very often. So when you do, you got to point it out. I mean, what a name choice. Just fucking amazing. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, damn it. Yeah. Okay. So I love this open as well. I think it's reminiscent enough of the ones we've gotten in this franchise that kind of have that light coming on sound, with the narration. It's close enough to where I think it works really well. It's like a modern take on it. We watched this movie on Netflix. One of Netflix's claim to fame was their true crime documentaries. And so this kind of plays like one of those. And I enjoy that. I think it works really well. And I don't know if I disagree with you on the setting, Bryan, so much as I just like the setting. I like that it's in the middle of nowhere, Texas. I think they do a good job of getting that across. Now, I agree with you in a point where could have been hotter, stickier, wetter, nastier, that kind of grimy feeling that the other ones have. But there's a part of me that respects that they didn't quite do that this is a little bit of a dip.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it come across that way, but I actually love the setting being in Harlow, not in the house, like the other ones. So I loved it.
Okay, yeah, and so I mean, I like that it went a little bit away from the same old like dumpy, two-trailer town. Like, yeah, it's still a ghost town, and it's a town that needs work, but people actually live in the community. Like, there's a sheriff, there's somebody who works on things. Like, totally get it. So, and I'm with you. I like this cast of characters. You get Lila, who I think is a very easy to root for heroine, and school shooting as a backstory to her trauma is very modern. Yeah, we've seen movies about school shootings, but how often have we gotten that been someone's character development as part of who they are? That is a very new take that I haven't seen anywhere else, and if it's there, I don't remember it. So I thought that was very interesting and very relevant to the teenagers, the people that the people that are going that would have go see this movie in the theater if it was in there. They're of the school shooting age, like 18, 19, 20. Like, a lot of those kids have lived through something close to it or it happened close to them. Those kinds of things. So I think she's a very relatable character right off the bat. And I like Melody too. At first it kind of comes off as mouthy, but I don't necessarily think that's a negative. That's just today. That's just who she is. She's unabashedly who she is, and I appreciate her for that. But I also like Richter. I think he's a kind of a gray character. As far as I go, where he's kind of an asshole, but he's the kind of asshole I want on my side. And again, he's funny as a sumbitch. Now, it's really funny because it's Mo Dumford as the actor, but his voice choice in this movie was Heath Ledger from Brokeback Mountain. That's exactly what he sounds like. Hey, how you going to do that right there? Like, that's how he, if you've never seen Brokeback Mountain, first of all, you should. But second of all, that's how Heath Ledger talks in that film. Just like that. So I thought that was pretty funny every time I heard him talk. Dante to me is kind of, I know why Dante's here. He's on screen to die. So I'm not like, I don't really have any strong feelings on him either way. Then you get Ruth, who is absolutely 100% here to die. That's why Ruth is in this group of characters, which I don't have so much of a problem with, because half of 80s, 90s slashers that we kind of like, half the people are on screen to die. Like, I that's a harken back to a time that's gone now where everybody has to mean something. So I like the kind of mismatch that we get here. I like the way that Harlow looks. I think it's like a cool little downtown area that just needs some, TLC. And you drive by those all the time when you go through, whatever state you're going to. And I like the banter between Melody and Richter. Like, I could tell there's some genuine dislike there, but you can tell in another set of scenes coming up where Richter, while he may not like Melody, he's able to find, like you said, Bryan, some common ground, like kind of helps try to save Melody. And so even after they're bad, they got off to a bad start, it ends up okay. Again, another topical issue, the Confederate flag, hanging, bad, good, whatever you decide. I like that they included it. It's not very common in horror movies, and I'm glad that we're kind of seeing a topical issue. I think that we'll look back on it, like Bryan said, and say that, this movie aged well as far as bringing up relevant stuff. I
mean, what I was trying to say earlier is, like, it humanizes both sides instead of it just being like a black and white, I hate you because of this, you hate me because of this. Like, it humanizes both sides, and I really liked that about this.
Right. And then we go into the house, and that's about what I was about to say is, first of all, you don't get this old woman's name, at least not that I caught. I tried to do good with names on this one because I know that's kind of where I'm terrible.
It's Jenny.
Damn it. Okay. Jenny. Yeah, so you get Jenny here in the house, and like you said, it humanized her a little bit because, again, you could kind of tell at some point she was probably this motherly, caring, nurturing person. And again, you don't know, after hearing her say, I have the deed or whatever to the house, you don't really know what side to fall on. I think that's a very interesting thing because, here we are invested in Dante, Melody, and their crew, and you kind of get this old woman, even though we know this is where Leatherface lives. Like, we know that. Before even seeing Leatherface, we know what the deal is. But you don't really know whose side to fall down on as far as who has the rights to this house. I think that's pretty interesting. I just like the whole interaction. I think it builds some nice backstory in the small period of time that they have. And I think it's Alice Krieg that plays the old lady, I believe. She does a good job of kind of getting it. I believe that's who that is. Krieg? One
Is
of those.
that? I think that she's the one that played the Borg Queen on Star Trek: First Contact. Without looking that up, I think that that's
She
the
is.
case. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, you're absolutely right, actually. But that's who this is
Yeah.
here. That's who played Jen A. Damn it, I say it like that every time now. It's like it's like a Winnebago from last week. Anyway, but so I like their interaction. I like how they get her out of the house, and I like that kind of sets Leatherface off. You know, I was thinking about this today at work, and this is my last thing. To me, this is the closest that Leatherface has ever gotten to basically being Jason Voorhees. And I mean that as a compliment, because while that may not be his mom, it basically is, right? And so what is Jason's whole MO is he wants to kill people because they killed his mom. Like that's literally the whole franchise right there. And so I kind of like that direction a little bit. Now, it doesn't make him an anti-hero or anything, but it does give him a reason to kill. Sometimes, like Michael Myers, I don't like a motive. In this case, I like a motive. And so I like everything in this opening. Like, I think it's really good. I understand people don't like these characters. I just disagree. Maybe because I'm close-ish-er in age to them or something. Like, I'm not really sure, but they don't piss me off at all.
I'm not, and I love them. I compare him to Jason Voorhees later as a negative. So that's kind of funny that you kind of said it in a positive light. So that's interesting. Also,
I think I know where you're going, though. I think I know where you're going.
Also, a little Easter egg here, that Harlow population sign saying the population's 1974. A little homage to the original. I don't know if you caught that.
God, there ain't many in this movie, even though they said it's a follow-up. Whatever.
Yeah, and also like where it says like what Route 74 or something like that. I thought that was a nod, like the sign, like the traffic sign said 74 or something. I picked up on that as well.
Oh, maybe I didn't catch that.
I like y'all's.
Real quick, Nico.
Go ahead.
Sorry, really quick. I love this kind of banter relationship between Lila and Melody because this is something that I don't think a lot of people address with school shooting victims. They kind of want to treat them like, little kids, kind of like bring them along. And I think Lila just wants some freedom, she's a little lost, mentally. Yeah. But she also just wants to kind of not be watched 24/7. Like she's not okay. Well, clearly she's not okay, but there's no reason to like treat her that she can't take care of herself, as Melody says right here. And so I like that dynamic. Again, I don't see the complaint about not having any kind of character depth or backstory. I mean, at least these two get it, in my opinion.
I was just going to say before I go on, I liked y'all's explanation about the humanizing on the Confederate flag thing. I thought that was y'all explained it very well and touched on that well, because I really didn't like it just because I thought it was just throwing a hot topic into a movie. But the way y'all explained it, I actually do like it better now. I didn't really think of it that way. But the next set of scenes is Dante introduces Melody to Catherine, the banker. Catherine is excited to see them taking on the revival of this place. We're in the van, and Ruth asks the officer how she's doing. Jenny dies as she tells the man to be the good boy she taught him to be and to stay out of her room. Ruth texts the group about what's happened. The officer has his arm snapped and then stabbed in the neck with his own bone repeatedly. The officer pulls his gun out to shoot, but shoots the sheriff driving. They crash the van into a piece of farm equipment in a field. Melody is now leading the auction, selling off properties, and explains their history. She sees Lila walk into Richter's mechanic shop. Lila asks him why he's such a nihilist. Lila sees the gun and Richter unarms it and hands it to her. He asks if she's ever shot one before. She says she's been shot at. She has flashbacks to the school shooting she was a part of. He says it must be tough living with that. She says everyone expects something special with her life now, but she's only a disappointment. Melody walks back on the bus and sees the text about Jenny dying. She shows Dante, and she's upset Dante only had to say, damn. She walks off from Dante saying she's going to get Lila and leave. She goes upstairs and sees Richter on the bed, and Lila walks out the bathroom with a cigarette. She says she was only using the bathroom, not having sex with him. She tells her the old lady died and they're leaving. Richter follows behind them after hearing the news. Ruth wakes up when she hears the van back doors bumping, and she doesn't see the old lady or the big man anymore. She now sees the giant man from the back of the van messing with Jenny's body. Ruth grabs the radio and she whispers what's happened. She's hurt and been in an accident and where she's at. She now sees the man cutting her face off with glass. He holds the face to the sky and puts it on his face. Ruth says he's wearing her face. The gas attendant hears it. The sheriff starts to cough and now has his head bludgeoned several times. Ruth sits there in fear and sees Jenny's body drug away. She tries to get out the door, but it won't open. She now tries to climb over the sheriff's body, but Leatherface bashes in her window and drags her back and chokes her. He then cuts her stomach smooth across with the glass, killing her. We now see a visual of Leatherface walking through this field of dead sunflowers with his new face. We get the iconic camera noise. God, I hated this so fucking much. We get the iconic camera noise when a grill is open. Richter walks up and snatches all their keys. He's pissed the old lady died. He says, "Show me the deed to the house and they'll get their keys back." Dante looks through his files but can't find it. He left it at the office. Lila says it can't be in the house then. Melody says she can't relax until they're on the right side of this. And Melody and Dante go back to the house. All right, go ahead, Brian.
That's funny. I mean, like I liked the having the camera noise, but and I think they maybe wanted to use it as like a transition, but that the fact that it transitioned into a grill opening was stupid. I completely agree with you on that one. Um, so this ambulance scene, holy shit. Like it was kind of reminiscent of the ambulance scene in Halloween 4 or even that Rob Zombie Halloween. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, but when he breaks his wrist and then fucking stabs him with his own wrist bone. Holy fucking shit. Like this movie, say what you want, man, but it definitely has creative ass kills. And I know a lot of these were CG, but honestly, it never took me out of it that I can recall. Not even just one time. Uh, this whole ambulance scene, I think, is fucking fantastic. Go ahead, Mike.
Brian, all I want to say is the only bad CG that I noticed was some of the blood. That's it. There are some times where you could see the kind of the buckets of blood were like put there digitally, but outside of that, I thought it was pretty good. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't even notice that. I thought CG was done really well in here. But yeah, this, like I said, this whole ambulance scene is fucking fantastic, even in the daylight, which usually would have bothered me a little bit, but it didn't here at all for me. It didn't bother me whatsoever. Beautiful shots, excuse me, from director David Garcia. The overhead shot of the wreck, Leatherface popping up in that field, I thought they were very unique, awesome shots. And I'll bring it up here since it shows him for the first time. Really, I'm mixed on his look. And you're not, so I can't really go hard one way or the other on this look. Like I love the look from the remakes, and honestly, I didn't like his look at all in the '74 original. This kind of seems like a mixture where parts I really do like, and other parts it almost makes him look like a balding old man and takes me out of it some. So I'm really kind of teetering on the line with his look in this one. But it's better than the majority of the franchise anyway. My Leatherface has definitely gone through some weird ass looks in this franchise. I loved the blurred out brutality of Sheriff Hathaway. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's a great fucking last name. Anyway, but him getting beaten with that log. Ruth's death scene is really great too. Great jump scare, I thought, with him popping up in the window. I'm not sure why she didn't just reach over and unlock her own door, but hey, tension. I do think Nell Hudson does a tremendous job acting, although I think she died a little too quickly after she was stabbed. But the tear running down her face, I thought was a beautiful touch, as well as the shot through the side mirror of her. There's just something about her. I think she reminds me a lot of Samara Weaving. And it could just be because we've reviewed so many of her movies lately. I don't know, but she looked like Samara Weaving to me. But I love this scene between Lila and Richter in the shop. When they're talking about the guns. We've kind of touched on this anyway. Again, it's really quick, but it's powerful enough that you get to see both of them. You get to see both of them see each other as human beings and kind of empathize with each other and each of their issues without this big hoopla. And you see Lila as not just this victim that needs Melody's protection. You see her already coming into her own. And I really do think that was great writing as well as, the mix up with the title. I liked this whole aspect and the subplot. Really, to me, it gives reasons why a lot of this is even happening in the first place. That's all I had on this group of scenes. As of right now, after this group of scenes, this movie is at like a 9 or above for me personally. I really like what they're doing with this movie so far.
Yeah. So, after the ambulance scene, which by the way, I'm with you. I love the way the ambulance scene played out. I think it's realistic, except for Ruth going with them. That's stupid. Anyway, but it's very dumb. But I'll say this. She's on screen to die, so I'm not like so hard against it because she kind of served her purpose at this point. We got to get on to the main characters here. I really love Richter in this scene, kind of defending the old woman. And the only reason I say that is because as a viewer, I still don't know where I come down. I'm not take Leatherface out of the equation. This old woman, she thinks at least that she has the right to live in the house. And Dante thinks he has.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pop up there. I was just, whenever you got done with that, I was going to say this, kind of the same thing. You don't know where to fall down on it. I don't either. But that's, I think, because it's written so well to where like everybody's right and everybody's wrong a little bit.
And I think that's why I like Richter here, kind of being like, you get this back, when, like he stands up for the town more so, I think, than the old lady, if that makes sense. Where they just kind of come in and change everything. I think he's kind of thinking, hold on, let's see what's actually going on here. So I like that. I like this kill scene here, or this kill scene in the ambulance. I think it's really good. I think all the deaths are good here. Man, you're not wrong. Killing someone with their own bone is a really creative kill. Very cool. I loved it. I thought it was great. Is it super realistic? No. Is it badass? Yes. So again, at this point, I'm not thinking too deep about the film because if I've given it some deep thought here, clearly with what I've said, but as just watching it, I'm not thinking too deep into what else is going on, except for there's some badass stuff happening on my screen now. Like, I'm having a little fun with this. Like, yeah, the first 20 minutes or so can be a little sloggy if you don't like the plot. But from this point on, when Leatherface starts killing people, it's badass. Like, he's killing people with their own body parts. And I'll say this, Bryan, you mentioned being kind of mixed on the look, and I touched on the look a little bit already, but I think I like it for the reason I already said, which is he is literally wearing a leather face, a human leather face. And I know in the original it's kind of a mismatch of human leather or whatever it is. He literally took her skin off and put it on his face. He is human leather face. Like, I think that's a really cool touch. It doesn't always look the best. It doesn't look good at all in the daylight. I will say that. But when it's lit correctly and it's at night, I think it's an interesting take because let's be honest, fellas, we've gotten some really bad Leatherface looks throughout I mean, Texas Chainsaw 3, the original 3, no. 4 is horrendous. 2 is even bad to me as far as the look itself goes. I think 3D, sorry to our boy, is absolutely horrendous in Texas Chainsaw 3D. I think that look stinks as well. And I'm like you on this one, Bryan. I'm mixed on the remake look. I think it's good, but I don't think it's great. This is kind of a little bit more what I'd like to see because it's realistically about as human Leatherface as you can get. So I like the look, and I love the shot of him popping out of the field. I don't remember where I saw this on Twitter, but someone said it looks like Leatherface was taking a poo out there, which it really
Damn it.
It was hard. I saw it before I saw the movie when, that picture was released, and I can't unsee it now. I can't.
Hey, Mike, we got somebody. Bryan, you're the graphic guy. You got to make that meme or that picture with Ezel from Friday. Leatherface, you taking a shit back there?
He over here taking a shit. Man, I ain't gonna tell nobody else.
You over there taking a shit? You got to do it. But as soon as I saw that scene, I was like, I can't unsee him taking his shit out there now. It's hilarious. Anyway, um, yeah. So I like a lot of this stuff because you mentioned the scene, inside I guess that's a mechanic shop or whatever that is in there, the building that Richter and Lila are in. I really like that scene. I think it's just deep enough to give us some character development for both, which we've already gotten, but to see her kind of experience her trauma in her head about school shooting, to see Richter become a human and empathize and sympathize with her and say, that really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that kind of thing. Like, I think that was a nice added character touch because, as you know, we're about to lose all character development and it's about to go into batshit crazy, balls to the wall. We're about to kill a bunch of people. And I think that's great. But I actually enjoy the setup where I know a lot of people didn't. So far, so good. I'm a fan of what they've done so far.
All right, the gas attendant calls Hardesty, who can hear her phone vibrating as she's gutting a pig. She seems in shock when she gets the call, and she gets dressed and loads her SUV up with equipment. She looks at the picture of her and her dead
Nicoh.
friends from before they all got slaughtered. Go ahead.
Can I just say, I know I should wait till I should wait my turn, but I can't. When she popped up on screen for the first time, I looked at the TV and said, "Are you fucking shitting me? They have Laurie Schroeder this bitch to the gills, man. What in the hell happened here?" I mean, all I'm gonna say is they could have at least been a little original with it. She has the same hair, the same outfit, the same stance. She's all of a sudden Sally Hardesty's a badass. Like, I don't know, man. Whatever. Sure. Wish.com. You can get your Laurie Strode at Wish.com. Sorry, no.
I don't know. I didn't hate it. Go ahead.
Oh, I can't stand it. Sally looks at the picture of her and her friends from before they all got slaughtered. She drives away to Harlow. Dante and Melody walk back inside the house. Dante checks out the downstairs, and Melody goes upstairs. Dante is looking through files on the table, and Melody opens up a jewelry box and finds a Texas warranty property title. She hears a stomp in the house and calls for Dante. Dante hears pots swaying in the kitchen and checks it out. He sees Leatherface's reflection in the pans. He tries to run but has his face sliced open with a cleaver. Dante stumbles out the room and onto the floor bleeding out. Melody sees him on the ground and Leatherface over him. She runs back upstairs and hides in a closet. Leatherface looks through the closet now and grabs one of Jenny's dresses and embraces it, obviously hurt from losing her. He applies makeup to her face that he's wearing. He overhears the people talking outside and looks out the window. He grows angered and ransacks the room and barges out. Melody tries to get their attention from the window, but they don't see her as it begins to storm and they get on the bus. Leatherface now begins to destroy the wall in the room with his big hammer. Dante gets up and hobbles outside. Richter sees him walk by his mechanic shop, and then Catherine sees him. He asks what was he doing in the house. Dante turns around and his whole cheek is sliced open. He falls beside the building, and Richter tells Catherine to get on the bus and call the police, and he gets his gun out. Catherine gets on the bus and tells the driver not to open the door. She won't tell Lila or anyone what she saw. Richter walks into the house now. Leatherface grabs his chainsaw out the wall he had stashed away. Melody is terrified when she sees it. Richter walks up the stairs, hearing the chainsaw. Leatherface hides behind the door, and Melody uses her foot to angle the mirror so Richter can see his reflection in him hiding. The two men fight, and then Leatherface fucks his leg up with a hammer. He tackles him into the window, and he grabs Richter, thrusting him into the glass, cutting his neck. He unclips the keys and holds them in his hand until Leatherface completely smashes his head in with the hammer. Leatherface walks away. Sally finds the wrecked van in the field and hears on the radio for police help. She follows a blood trail, and we see a skinned Jenny wearing her dress propped up. "I fear no evil," Sally says, and runs to her SUV and looks at her picture again. Lila goes to leave, and Catherine begs her to stay. Lila walks out calling for Melody. She sees Dante's dead body on the ground up against the wall. Melody grabs the keys from Richter's hand. She begins to walk down the hall, and she climbs over the rail so she can escape. She almost falls but catches herself. She jumps down onto the stairs and looks up, and Leatherface launches his hammer at her. She falls through the floor, and she hears the chainsaw crank up. She crawls under the floor trying to avoid being hit by the chainsaw. She hears Lila calling for her and crawls towards her while Leatherface drags the chainsaw through the floor towards her. Lila gets the grate open and Melody escapes. All right, go ahead, Brian. That's the next set of scenes I got.
Okay, so my thoughts on Sally Hardesty coming back. I will say that I do think that she's the biggest travesty in the movie. I don't think that she's the Wish Laurie Strode. I mean, I think that's funny, but I don't see that. I mean, Halloween showed, I think, a very good game plan, and I have zero problem with them putting her in this movie. I have zero problem with the way that she's handled later. Here I don't mind at all. I mean, here, and actually, by the way, this barn and house, little trivia, sets from Rambo: Last Blood. Awful movie, by the way. The previous one should have been the final one, but I digress. Sally, I think, is fine here. I mean, her introduction's fine. Owen Foray, I think is how you say her name. She does a fine job taking the reins. I like her becoming a badass Texas Ranger, not becoming a lifelong victim. But she's part of my biggest issues with this movie in the final act. They definitely fumbled the ball in the goal line, especially with her. But the scenes in the house are fantastic. Very few nitpicks here. Again, the shots from Garcia, the close up on the puke and the floor as they enter the house, the point of view shots under the bed with action going on. You know, that shot of Dante being killed, but you only get to see it as like the door swings in and out. I think that's fucking fantastic. Richter and Leatherface's fight I thought was awesome as fuck. And that shot, you said it when you were reading it, Nico, that shot of his knee going 90 degrees and then him suddenly getting his head bashed in with that fantastic music cue. Fuck yes. I mean, that was just brutal as hell. A few nitpicks I did have though. Old dude's chainsaw cranks up literally every fucking time he pulls the string. Obviously, the writers have never used a fucking chainsaw before because that's fantasy right there, much less out of a goddamn wall from 40 years ago. Just saying. But, you know, Sally seemed a little too scared, I think, whenever she finds the lady's body, you know, and going right back to the picture, I think that was a little too much. I think since we just literally saw that picture from 74. And then we see it again later. Melody being hit with that hammer and flying off those stairs like she did, and then she's barely hurt, all the way to the chainsaw through the floor. Oh, that was a little too horror movie cliched for me. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more creativity there, but the sewage pipe part I thought was nasty as fuck. I thought that was great. Hitting on the atmosphere, having it raining, that's definitely a choice. Again, you know, I want it to feel gross and dry, so it didn't really do it for me as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, but it's something different. Hell, it possibly had to do with the budget constraints, you know, less lighting, etc. So I don't want to hold it too much against them. Now, the effects on Dante's face were fucking amazing. You know, although plot-wise, Catherine, I think, probably would have been freaking out a little bit more than she was after finding him like that, but okay. Right now, after this set of scenes, I'm still at like a high 8 or a 9 for this movie so far.
Okay, so obviously, like I said in the last set of scenes, this is where shit really kicks off. I touched on Sally Hardesty. It's not that I don't like that character. I just wish there was a little more nuance to her because outside of her being a ranger, she's to me the same character we got from Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018. To me. Not kills, but, you know, kind of like working her whole life, building it up to this moment. Revenge, learning how to shoot guns, learning, you know, waiting to kill people, whatever. They're a little different, but the look is the same. And I think the look is kind of what bugs me out the most, where they're almost identical from behind.
I mean, I get the look part, but, you know, I mean, Laurie Strode spent her whole life, or that whole 40 years, focusing on Michael fucking Myers, and at least they tried to make Sally to where she like channeled that into being a fucking Texas Ranger, like a badass somebody. Yeah. Now, does that play out later? Absolutely not. They basically turn her into Laurie Strode later, but right now, at least it's different.
I won't say they fumbled it on the goal line. I said they fumbled it at the 20-yard line because, but again, not that I don't mind the character of Sally being in this movie. I wish they would have given her something better to do. And it's really a travesty, like you said, because, you know, we just saw the new Scream and they while I would have liked more of the legacy characters, they still gave them something good to do, especially one in particular, where I think
Hey,
that like
nothing can compare to the amazingness as Scream. So I mean, that's putting it on way too high of a pedestal. So look at Nicoh.
okay, all right, I'll reel it back in. But yeah, so again, I like the connection to 74 with Sally being here. I just don't like some of the creative choices that they made. This is where Leatherface starts fucking shit up. I love it. I think it's fun. It reminds me of a badass Jason Voorhees movie like Friday '09 or like Friday 6th, like where he just starts killing people. I love it. I think it's great. Dante, to me, was bound to die first, just given the story that he had. And I love the face slice. I think it's unique. It looks cool. He doesn't die immediately, which I love. He kind of, flops there like a fish, and I think that looks kind of cool. The CG blood didn't quite do it for me, but I'm able to ignore that, especially with lighting. Like, it's not a big deal. So I like that kill, and I love this stuff in the house. Like, I think the quote unquote chase between Leatherface and Melody, and then Richter and Leatherface is awesome. I think it's lit really well. It's intense. It keeps me interested the whole time. Now, and again, here's someone in a horror movie doing something really smart. Now, she's not smart the whole movie, but in this moment, Melody kicks the mirror so Richter can see behind him. That is thinking on your feet. That is being an intelligent character in a horror movie trying to help someone out. Didn't work, but at least she's thinking on her feet. Speaking of on your feet, or I guess Ritter's about to be off his feet because my God, Leatherface beat the shit out of this man. And it looks incredible. Like the knee turning, beating the fuck, like it is a really good kill. It's brutal. I love it. And again, I even like the chase after that, Bryan. And I know you kind of mentioned the stuff with the floorboard and all that. Maybe it ran a little long. Like I think if you maybe, and I know this movie's short, but if you kind of shrunk that down just a smidge, maybe 30, 40 seconds, you may have gotten a tighter version of that. I think I would have enjoyed that a little bit. So that's a minor gripe, but I still like it. And I still like the chainsaw coming through the floorboard. And again, I mentioned it in the open. I love that they included the original chainsaw from 74. It's the same make and model. I think that's a really cool, really good attention to detail. This movie doesn't do a whole lot right as far as following up to 74, but it got that part really right, and I think that's really cool. I, too, had a problem with the chainsaw. No, I'm telling you right now, I work with one 4 times a week. Ain't no fucking way. And this and the one I work with is brand new, still. That's the name of the brand. Still, it's the orange and white one that you get at Lowe's or wherever, Ace Hardware, whatever, and it's brand fucking new, and it doesn't crank the first time you pull that bitch. So I know that little green ass chainsaw ain't cranking from 1974. Whatever, that's cool. I'm just saying. I also had a gripe with that. The poo on the poo on Melody's head was disgusting. That was not what I needed to see. I thought it was at least unique, something different, but I didn't need to see all that. And so again, I like the fact that Lila and Melody are still here. They're helping each other. So I think this is a good set of scenes. You get some good kills, and what we're about to get is probably my favorite scene in the film. And I know it's some people's least favorite scene in the film. That's why I'm excited to talk about it. But I think this set of scenes kind of really puts us into the next thing. But Nicoh, before you go, you smirked when I said it. I have a feeling we're going to disagree on what we're about to talk about. But I got to say, what's coming up is one of my favorites. It's probably my favorite scene in the film.
Well, I don't love what's coming up next, honestly. But what I was just going to comment about the chainsaw is, dude, this thing is from 74. It's been in a wall. Dude, that gas is not going to power this thing. That gas is going to have so much sediment in it. That thing is not going to run at all. But then again, everybody will say that the old stuff runs better than the new stuff.
That's probably true. But how do we know that Leatherface had been in there greasing it up, getting it right, using the right oil mix.
Bro, he had to break the wall to get to it.
And putting it back in the wall.
It is drywall work.
Kablam every time he needs it. All right. When my time comes, I got to make sure this thing is good. Let me lube it up real quick. Sorry,
he could have like put it in the mattress or something. He fucking like put it in the wall.
All
right, let's jump into this bus scene because I know it's probably the most talked about scene in the movie. Melody and Lila run down the street and onto the bus.
I love it.
Melody hands the driver the keys and frantically tells him to drive, not explaining anything. The bus driver begins to drive, and we see Leatherface in an alley, and we hear the chainsaw rev and the bus shakes. The driver goes outside to see what happened, and now we see his head thrown onto the bus steps. Leatherface walks onto the bus. All the party goers now pull out their phones, and they go live on social media. God, this line is so fucking terrible. This guy says, "Try anything and you're canceled, bro." The chainsaw revs, and he begins to kill them while people watch it on live.
Awful.
It's chaos with a lot of gory deaths. And, I can't really go in depth because there's so much happening. Just go watch the scene. Lila falls to the floor and has flashbacks again to the school shooting. Melody gets her up and they hide in the bathroom. Leatherface is back to slaughtering folks. Blood pours under the bathroom door. Melody notices an escape window and Lila escapes, but Leatherface begins to saw into the door now. Melody uses the cork remover and stabs him in the arm, and they escape to the roof. They jump off the bus and run down the street, and Sally arrives. They get her in the back seat, and she says, "It's him, isn't it?" Leatherface. They beg her to drive. 50 years I've been waiting for this night. She says, "You need to stay until I kill him." She exits the SUV and gets a shotgun from the trunk. Sally walks towards the bus as the ladies cry out for her. Sally walks into the house and upstairs. She goes into a room and sees him and aims the shotgun at him. "Turn around," she says. She's trembling and names off her friends who died. She hears Melody screaming and tells him to say her name, and she knows what he did to her friends. "You don't remember me," she says, and he walks out the house. She freezes up. The moment was too big. She pissed down her leg. Lila says she should have died at school that day, and Melody says she won't let her die. Leatherface breaks the window, and Sally shoots him. "Remember me now? I'm the one who got away." She tosses him the keys to get the fuck out of here. She heads towards loud chainsaw revs, and he runs out an alley at her full speed. This old man can run fast as hell. She shoots and misses.
Oh, dude.
She then stabs him. He now rams the chainsaw through her core and holds her to the sky. Melody drives full speed at Leatherface, but he launches a chainsaw at the car, and they drive the SUV into Richter's shop. Lila sees Melody's leg is impaled, and she's stuck. Melody tells Lila to listen. "He's going to kill me. There's no other way, and you have to run. You're the strongest person I know now." "Run," she yells. Leatherface walks up to Melody in the car, and she says she's sorry for what she did to his mama. He cranks up the chainsaw, then Lila appears with a gun from earlier, and it doesn't shoot. He chases her into the street, and she falls. He goes to kill her, and Sally shoots him in the back. Lila tells her not to run. She loads the gun and says, "If you run, he'll never stop haunting you." She drops the gun and dies as Lila hears Melody calling out for her. Lila gets a shotgun and enters the building he ran into. Melody screams in agony as she tries to remove the bar of metal stuck in her leg. Lila looks through this warehouse, and we see a pool of water in the middle of the floor. She hears a chainsaw crunk up and follows the noise. No one is there, and then Leatherface tackles her into the pool of water. And the next set of scenes is the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Moment too big, pisses down her leg. That's absolutely eloquently put. Is perfect.
Dude, I had to quote the TikTok coach. That's my line.
All right, so this bus scene. Look, I think it's pretty fucking epic. Like, it bothers me, but only because to me it's like a few nitpicks away from being like the firefighter scene in Halloween Kills. That fucking epic to me. The gore I thought was incredible. Now, nitpick, these people would be trying to get away a lot more than they are. There's a lot of shots where they're just kind of sitting there and not diving over chairs or out windows. Just literal chaos is what it should have been. And I didn't see it as, amped up as I would have liked to have seen it. Obviously, that "you try anything, you're canceled" line was absolutely abhorrent. Like, there's no business that line being in this movie. Cheesy as fuck and almost a scene ruiner right there. Then you put it in the trailer? Like, that's a terrible choice right there. It's not as good as obviously these people thought it was good whenever they wrote it. Anyway, bravo to the lighting effects on the bus. It was different. I really liked it. Great cuts, great effects to me. Like the CG with the girl even being cut in half. I can't remember her name, but the bank lady didn't take me out of it at all. Tons of blood, not a perfect scene, but all in all, I thought it was great. Okay, so right now, at the end of this bus massacre scene, this movie has 26 minutes left, including the credits. And I'm still at like an 8.59 for me as far as a score out of 10 on this. But this exact moment is where this thing nosedives faster than Nico's bank account during a shoe sale, faster than LeBron James in a flopping contest, faster than my expectations when Sean Irwin picks a fucking movie. Okay, I'm done. But my point is, the rest of this movie just pisses me off. I don't understand the creative choices from here on out. There's a lot of good cinematography. The soundtrack was really good, but the negatives far outweigh any positives. Sally locking them in the car for fucking what? To be the bait for him? Like, that doesn't work for me. Plus, she's in like shock, not the badass you made her out to be. Don't even get me fucking started on the fact that you have this motherfucker sitting there and you don't have her shoot him. Like, she gets fucking chainsawed through the gut, lifted up, but she isn't dead? What the fuck is this shit? Like, why don't you just let Lila take him down with that AK and have her, like, arc matter a little bit more? Why is Leatherface suddenly fucking smart and tactical now and can run a 4.3 fucking 40 apparently, but runs out of turbo because then he can barely walk dragging the chainsaw around like a fucking lumbering Frankenstein? And now we've made Leatherface supernatural like a zombie Jason apparently who can withstand gunshots, everything. Man, get me the fuck out of these scenes.
Okay. So, I just want to say, right off the bat, I fucking love this bus scene. Outside of the line that you guys have already mentioned, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. That's bad. I don't think it fits. I don't think it works. I know we're trying to keep it a little modern, but that felt so... It was too on the nose for the little bit of nuance that we've gotten so far. Like, too tongue-in-cheek. Wasn't a fan of that at all. So I'm cool with bashing the canceled line. But I absolutely love everything else on this bus, including going on like Instagram Live and seeing Leatherface. Like, I thought that was creative and fun and cool and modern. Like, I thought it was great, especially as the killings start to happen. This is where the movie delivers on the title. This is, in fact, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, literally on a bus, and I love that for it. Like, I think the kills are good. There's so much blood. It's a lot of fun. It's fast paced. It doesn't slow down. It's intense, and it's very it's very intense, especially with Lila and Melody trying to escape it. And you see the people that they've kind of been somewhat friends with. We don't have a whole lot of knowledge of who they are, but all of them die except for them. And so, I think it's a really good scene, and I love the lighting on the scene. I love that the chainsaw is kind of the soundtrack of the scene, if that makes sense. Like, I think that's done really well. And I just love it. I think it's really unique and different, and I thought it was really cool. Okay, juxtapose that to what we get here with Sally. Now, again, I've already talked enough about Sally. Wish they would have done something different, but they didn't. And her part of the movie suffers so much because of what we're about to get right here. Locking them in the car, yeah, okay, I get her way of thinking because, like you mentioned, Bryan, making them bait to kind of like spark him a little bit. Fine, I don't really agree with it, but whatever. Here's the thing. In the real world, and I know you're in shock, and I know it, okay, you're finally seeing this fuck for the first time in 40 plus years, 50 years. You have a point blank shot on his head and you don't take it? Now, I've never been in that situation. I don't have that kind of post-traumatic stress that lasts that long where I build it up, and then when I get there, I don't know what to do. I understand that. But just from a logical standpoint, I wouldn't have even included that scene. It made Sally look dumb, weak, feeble. It made no sense at all. I like that she mentions her friends, name, by names, and the same thing we got in, by the way, same thing we got in Halloween Kills and Halloween 2018, which was, oh, this monster that I've been obsessing over for this long doesn't fucking know who I am, doesn't give a shit about me. I'm not the reason this man does what he does. Kind of the same thing, same vibe. So, with that being said, you could have gotten that across in a much different scene than this. This makes her character fall backwards instead of move forward. Now, I'm not expecting Sally Hardesty to kill Leatherface. I actually like the decision that they take in having Leatherface kill Sally. Why? Because Leatherface, kind of like these other slasher villains, never truly dies. That's just the way this goes, correct? So having the main female lead from the very first movie die made sense to me. Almost like something another franchise could have, potentially should have done in this last movie. Anyway, but again, I just think this is such a disservice to the legacy character of Sally Hardesty. It's really bad. Now, I think her kill is cool. It's very cool. It reminds me a lot of this was filmed before Halloween Kill, so it's not a copycat kill. But I think it reminds me a lot of the firefighter kill from that movie where Michael lifts him up and then pulls it back down. I think it's a very cool chainsaw kill. They don't shy away from the graphicness of it. I think it's really cool, and I like it. I think it's good. Now, what I don't like is Sally coming back into play. That's fucking stupid. It's dumb. She's dead. Get the fuck out of here, man. And I wish that we could have gotten a strong Melody and Lila before we do, if that makes sense. They're kind of weak. They try to run away. And they decide to take Sally's advice to not run away this time. Like, I understand that. But there's this part is, to me, the biggest negative of the film. And it's really the only big negative that I have is this whole, what is it, probably about 10-minute stretch here. Everything with Sally. And it's unfortunate because I was excited to see her character back on screen. But again, I like this interaction with Melody and Leatherface in the van. I think it's really good. Kind of trying to tug at his heartstrings and all that stuff. I like all that. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot to like about this set of scenes except the bus and that. So, but we're about to get to the end, which to me, it picks back up.
Hey, and see, one more thing I wanted to say about Sally and the not shooting him. If you are creatively going to make that choice, that you're going to have her freeze up in that moment, you're going to have her, then don't have her be a badass Texas Ranger, because that makes no fucking sense that you've done that job for 40 years going up against people that I'm sure were just as badass as Leatherface, and you're going to freeze up here. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you can't have that part of the character and this part of the character. Just my opinion.
The moment was too big. She pissed down her leg.
As one wise man once said.
All right, here's the ending. The chainsaw stops running and Lila makes it out of the water. As she's almost out, he grabs her leg, but Lila hobbles to the shotgun. He grabs the chainsaw, cranks it up on the first try, and throws it at her like skipping it on the ground, and it hits her lower leg. He kicks the gun away from her, and she looks up, and Melody jumps on his back, because like Bryan said, she doesn't suffer any side effects from these injuries she's gotten. She sees a shotgun as Melody is tossed across the room. Leatherface goes to kill her, but is shot twice by Lila and almost knocked into the pool of water. Melody appears with a chainsaw and uppercuts him in the chin with the running saw, and he falls into the water. We see him sink into the water. I wrote Freddy vs. Jason style. Melody asks Lila if she's okay. She says no, and they hug. She drops the gun on the floor. I guess this is the next morning. We see Lila pick up Sally's picture and hat. They both get into Dante's car to leave. They open the sunroof and start the autopilot. Lila jokes she will move here, but Leatherface ruins their plans and bashes in the window and rips Melody out and saws her head off. Leatherface does his chainsaw wave around, and we get end credits. And then after the end credits, we see just Leatherface. He's walking back up to the original house. If you didn't watch that, I mean, it's nothing major, honestly, but it is there. That's the ending. What do you think, Bryan?
Um, I said he fumbled the ball on the goal line earlier. Mike corrected me and said the 20-yard line, which is probably more correct. They fumbled the ball on a 20-yard line in the Super Bowl. Is about as good of an analogy as I can come up with. I mean, you were great till you got to this last 26 minutes. Super Bowl champion, great. So anyway, I said it a little too early, I think, with Leatherface being suddenly Invincible Jason. Here, shot with a gunshot from 2 feet away, uppercutted with a running chainsaw, would have drowned in an unexplainable deep fucking body of water inside of a movie theater for whatever reason that's there. But it's mostly here, I guess, that he was Invincible Jason. But I hated it, so I'll say that again. I hated it. I like the conclusion with the two sisters and their arc having been completed, basically. But it's stupid that they just get in this car and drive away. Like when there would be police, like ambulances, the fucking National Guard there probably at this point. The whole thing is just so weird to the point, like it almost should have been like a dream sequence or something. Like he pulls her out of the car. Nobody heard a chainsaw running or saw anyone approaching the car because, of course, not. And now the effect with her with cutting her head off was fantastic. But again, like maybe this should have been a dream sequence. It just really seems like shoehorned in here and was just like a really weird Nightmare on Elm Street 1 type of ending. Like it's just like where did that come from? And the after credit scene, you said it was the house from the first film. I was going to ask you if it was the house from the first film because I was like, why does that look so small to me? Or am I just like conditioned to think that it's a big house from like seeing the remake so many times? Was the original house was really that small?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it just looks a little bigger, but no, I mean, the first house is just like a small white house, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's been probably 3 or 4 years since I've seen the original. Well, I guess except for our rewatch, but for 31, but I'm pretty sure it was that small. Okay. I'm here to disagree with you because that's
good.
That's what makes it fun.
Right.
I think all of this is fun as hell. Now, that's not to say, Brian, that you're not right on the logic side of this, but we're so far into this movie where I'm refusing to add logic to an illogical situation. Why is Camp Crystal Lake in the middle of this movie theater? I don't understand that. Okay, but it's there. And it's a toy that we can play with. Let's play with it. And they do. I mean, it's not great, but it adds a little something to the effect. That's fine. I think that I love the tense, him chasing Lila with a chainsaw, the chainsaw falling, her picking up a gun, overcoming her fear of guns in a way which I don't, like, I think that's what they were trying to do with that because, obviously school shooting victim or, survivor, I should say. And her using a gun was probably not something she ever saw herself doing, but in life-threatening situations, she had to. So that's a scene. And then you get Melody using the chainsaw, like the uppercut you said. I'll say this. You got a chainsaw. You got a really good shot at Leatherface. Probably a good idea to take his fucking head off. just throwing it out there.
I mean, shit, she uppercutted him with a running chainsaw. He'd look like Dante did, like just up his face.
But he didn't. So, and that was my thing. As soon as he didn't look like that, I was like, Leatherface is not done. There's no fucking way. And so now, I'm pretty sure, was it someone mentioned on Facebook or Instagram about how it was just magically dry the next morning, like it rained all night. And
Danny, she commented that.
Yeah. She's absolutely right. Like, where the fuck did all the rain go, man? Like, I know it's in Texas and shit dries up quick, but it's humid in Texas too, man. Come on now.
Dude, it was monsooning when it was raining.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, they get in the car and you could just tell by how like slow it was rolling, how it was developing, like, something's about to happen. I just didn't know what. They went all out with it. I'll give them credit. Now, you don't have to like the decision. That's fine. I totally get it. But I like the decision to just say, fuck all the rules, fuck everything else. He pulls her out the car, chainsaws her head off. I got a kick out of that. I know I'm not supposed to think it's funny, But God, for whatever reason, I thought that was funny as fuck. Like, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe they actually fucking did that. Like, I think I liked it so much because I could hear the audible groans from the majority of other people watching the film. Now, again, it's not like some great choice to make, but I will give them credit for having the balls to do it. Like, I think that was very funny. And again, end credit scene, which I didn't do until my second watch, was him walking back up to the original house. I thought that was a really nice touch. I wish they had put in the actual run of the film.
Were you watching illegal copies of this again, Mike? Is that why you heard audible groans on there?
No, this was Netflix. Yeah, Netflix, you should sponsor us. I agree. I don't think they do podcast sponsorship. Anyway. Yeah, no, that's all I had. I actually thought the last 15 minutes or so was a fun thrill ride, man. I enjoyed it.
Well, maybe they should do like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer did at the beginning, and just bring them both back for the next one and have that just kind of be a dream sequence or something. I don't know, because that would make more sense.
God damn it.
No, don't do that, please. Melody's dead.
She dead. Any more final thoughts before we jump into social media?
No, go ahead.
No, that's all.
All right, let's knock out Twitter first because we don't have much on there, but the other two are booming. Sean Irwin, he just commented the movie was all right, some decent kills, but the plot was all over the place, and the ending annoyed me. That's fair. My man Hernandez Gunn commented, I may be in the minority, but this wasn't half bad. All right, that's fair.
No, sir, you are not. Or maybe you are. So am I. All
right, let's jump into Instagram, where we had a lot of comments. Whew. All right, y'all take a sip of water because we got a lot of stuff to answer. Kevin Podoff commented, love it. Remember, the more you shit on this movie, the less chance of getting more of them. Still better than Midsummer any day, with a laughing emoji. Man, he's
great point, Kevin.
No, Midsummer's way better than this. All right.
Yeah, but I just meant he's right about the first part. You're right about the first part.
All right. The Black Han Solo commented, and I think this is kind of, I don't think it inspired Mike, but it really juiced him up to want to make his rant at the beginning. Despite your thoughts, isn't it good to see the horror icons still getting work? Michael, yes. Candyman, Ghostface, Chucky, now Leatherface. Who do you think will be next? Jason, Freddy? And then he followed up just saying, as a diehard Leatherface fan, I really, really like the 2022 movie, minus the Sally bullshit.
God, I forgot about Candyman. That's another perfect example. I enjoyed the hell out of that Candyman reboot. I thought it was great. So,
I haven't seen it
great
yet.
Point. But who do I think gets brought back first? Probably Freddy, in some form.
The Candyman reboot's really good.
Yes, it is.
I haven't seen it.
Better than the original.
I'll just comment. Like Mike said, I mean, it's good to see our favorite slashers back on the big screen.
Yes.
And to answer his question, Nico, I would say if who I actually thought gets brought back next, just because I don't see the Jason movies, even though they quote unquote settled it or whatever, they haven't actually settled it the way it has to be settled to get a new movie. I would say that probably a new Freddy movie is more likely than a new Jason movie right now.
A new Freddy movie is going to get shit upon, though, because it's not Robert Englund. If it's not him.
Well, I hate that because I do think other people can play that character. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you, but you know how horror fans are.
I know. Just bring Heather Langenkamp back and it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Mark_Hef commented, he didn't hold back. Fucking awful.
No, he didn't.
Why bring back Sally only to have this epic 80s weapon load up scene, only for her to not fucking shoot the fucker that butchered her friend? She literally let him walk past her. He was sitting there after murdering more kids, and she was like, you don't remember me? Shoot him. Ruined her arc. Possibly killed the franchise. But seriously, the 3D movie had a better plot than this. Absolutely awful.
No, Mark. No, it didn't. Stop.
And then he said, not one bit of eye candy. Jesus, it was bad. Anyway,
not true.
Rant over. This movie was the biggest letdown so far this year of horror movies. My man let the chopper sing on that one.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your opinion, Mark. Absolutely. You're more than welcome to have that opinion. As long as you are willing to accept that I'm right and you're wrong. I'm kidding. All right. I'm kidding.
Danny CNAP's comment, I don't remember another recent movie where the characters were so unlikable. Who was the old man sitting in the side of a shot inside the orphanage? I think that was Leatherface. Who was Lila's grandmother that was apparently from Harlow? Why was it dry in the morning after it pissed rain all night? So many questions. My one and only like of the movie, arm bone in the neck. That kill was awesome.
Kill is great. I was gonna say
Spoiler alert,
spoiler.
it's my favorite.
Spoiler.
All right. Our elbow. Tyler commented, if they had left Sally out of it, this would have been 5 stars. I thought the orphanage was a great explanation of where he's been since the 70s. One of the charming and comforting things about slashers is how formulaic they are and how they rip each other off. So it's odd to me how many horror fans complain it's just a ripoff of the new Halloween films. I hated the curly-haired sister and thought the final scene is a very satisfying and hilarious homage to the original. I think it was just the timing of it. It's like this Lori thing just happened. Maybe you wait a little bit, but it was like,
yeah, I just think it was the timing, like you said. And also, I agree with you. I think the ending of this movie is a cool little tip of the cap to the original, just kind of reverse. I think it was pretty cool.
Before I ask this next question, I'm just going to read some other comments that are just comments, not really questions. Real Matt Sear said, there are plenty in the series worse than this one. Yes, there are. But there are plenty in the series better than this one as well. Mostly it felt cheap and cliched. I was never scared at all and found much of it underwhelming. Even the scene on the bus, which should have been epic. The Sally callback was weak. There were plot holes throughout. For example, when she's holding a shotgun in his room and he's sitting down, but she allows him to get up and leave. Overall, I think they tried to pull a Halloween 18 and came up way short. The best thing this has going for it was the fact that it was only 81 minutes long. The Jessica Biel Jordana Brewster reboot timeline is by far the best in the series, and I wish they would focus on that timeline moving forward. Hard to argue. I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
I understand that.
Because Leatherface technically didn't die at the end of the 03, so they could have done something.
Again, these guys don't
Kev
ever
Graham
really
83 commented plot and background arc was yeah. Kev Graham 83 commented plot and background arc was pretty good. The ending, pretty predictable. And my roommate actually commented pros and cons of the new one versus the original.
Is that a question for me?
That's for everybody.
See, I look. I'm going to wait on that one until we review the original 74 one. I don't want to kill my everybody's opinion of me right off the bat.
I'll just say this. I don't think you can do that with these two movies because they don't have anything in common but little flashbacks to me. Like I mean, I think they're two completely different films that are trying to do two completely different things. And so it's really hard to weigh the pros and cons against each other. I like that this one's more gory and more of a slasher because I like slasher movies.
Yeah.
But I like the atmosphere of the original more. How about that? There you go.
I'll just say I will watch this 100 times out of 100 times before I watch the original.
Better than Jaws, bitch.
Whew.
Wrong.
Whew. All right, let's jump
you
on.
You have to respect my opinion in the horror community, Bryan.
It's still wrong. I respect it, but it's wrong.
All right, let's knock out Facebook real quick. Michelle Mirza asked, what do you guys think of Sally coming back? It seemed she didn't really have much impact on the story. She kind of felt out of place. I'll touch on that when I do
tomato boo.
Yeah.
Jennifer Kramer just commented back to Michelle that it was just too much like Halloween and stuff we've all said, but she did drop her own comment saying overall I enjoyed the movie. I love seeing our fans interact with each other. We're all like a big family over here. I like that.
All right, let's go. Keep doing it. Love it.
Jennifer Kramer commented overall I enjoyed the movie. They could have left the entire Sally storyline out because she added nothing of value to the movie. I enjoyed the kills. Also, I'm just saying, but if I was to survive a night like that, I'm not concerned about rolling down the windows and putting the top of the car down before driving off. I'm going to be putting the pedal to the metal. Amen, sister.
Yes.
But then she followed up saying, but the sister getting her head sawed off was my favorite kill. She had it coming. And Kevin Potoff also commented on Facebook. Probably one of the more normal comments he's ever made. Can't wait to hear about it. I think this is just a fun popcorn movie for a Friday night. The final girl was pretty boring. Great kills with the chainsaw. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joe Swinford said that the final girl was boring to Kevin. Eric Doolittle said he thought Leatherface was pretty good. I won't argue with that. He was pretty decent. But he did say that the mom must be 100 years old. And in 73, it says Leatherface was like 26. So he would be old as fuck right now. So he's like 75 right now.
Yeah, fuck it. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and you know what? I never even thought about that. Like, I don't know. It just never even crossed my mind
Yeah.
how old he was. I don't. I like the way they did him. It was fine.
yeah. And this is the last one. Eric Doolittle commented, "Fun movie. I thought Leatherface was pretty brutal, but I didn't feel connected to any of the characters and found myself almost rooting against them. I think bringing Sally back would have been better if they didn't try to go Halloween 18 with it." That's a lot of people's complaints. I get it.
Yeah.
All in all, it was a fun watch, though. And that's basically the end of all our Facebook comments. We had a lot of comments. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you guys for that feedback. That's great. I hope you listen to the episode and give us glowing reviews better than you did the film.
I don't have any fun facts. If y'all have any, Brian, go ahead. Mike, is there a budget out for this? Like, I didn't even look.
I can look for the budget. I didn't just because I didn't really think it mattered, but I can.
I don't think Netflix releases those, do they? I mean, do they?
They might not. You're right. They might not put budgets out.
I don't think they do because you can't really measure what it brings
gross.
back.
This movie started.
It's like the number
I
two
can't
watched.
find one.
It's like the number two watched movie on Netflix of all time or something right now. Like it's some crazy amount of watches. Which good.
Yeah, that's good.
Us some more.
Right. And really quick, that I didn't find a budget, and I don't know if it's technically made any money except whatever it sold the rights for to Netflix, which was probably a lot of money, honestly. Because Netflix owns the rights to the Texas Chainsaw franchise, which is why they uploaded like 4 or 5 Texas Chainsaw films to the platform recently. I thought that was interesting as well. So, again, I couldn't find a budget or gross, but let me hit this home one more time. This movie did well on Netflix for their platform. You know what that probably means? We're going to get A, more horror movies on Netflix, and B, perhaps more Texas Chainsaw movies. If you didn't like this one, maybe you'll like the next one. I don't know, but I think it's good for the genre that things like this keep doing so well. Scream knocked it out of the park. Nicoh, you asked me, or you didn't ask, but you kind of mentioned Black Han Solo's comment, kind of juicing me up. What really juiced me up, as I know Bryan saw what I put on Twitter, is the thread where people were having Scream and Halloween Kills kind of face off against each other about how much money they made and all this other stuff. And there's like defending thy honor in the comments underneath and just shitting on the other one. And it just pissed me off. Like, what are you doing? Like, we're supposed to be fans of these things. Like, you can not like the movie, but to just like, oh, Scream made more money, Durkadur. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that's not the right way to do fandom, in my opinion. So it's almost the new Scream, guess what? Was making fun of you for having that kind of fandom. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. Let's jump into our rating, least favorite kill and favorite kill. Y'all ready? I'm excited to do this. Does anybody want to go first tonight? Anybody want to go first in particular?
Nicoh, I feel like you should go first. You've kind of juiced yours up.
All right, I'll go first. Ain't no problem. All right, favorite kill. I think this might be unanimous, but the first kill of the deputy's wrist, forearm getting snapped, and then stabbed in the neck. Amazing and creative kill. Loved the fuck out of that kill. That kill was awesome. Least favorite kill. This was hard to pick because they're all pretty good. I almost picked Ruth because the stab in the gut was kind of plain, but I chose Sally just because I hate her character being in this. And she should have died from the get-go and not survived getting launched and then still shooting. I hated that. All right, guys, give me some time because I'm not joking. I wrote a lot. All right, have a lot of thoughts in this movie. I will start with positives, which are the gore and kills are very good, very, very good. It really is in quotations, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The effects are good, especially Dante's destroyed cheek. I think the movie is shot well, and I think Mark Burnham did fine as Leatherface, even though I don't like the mask he wore. All right, negatives time. So many. Horrible characters that aren't likable. It's not good if you're rooting for a Leatherface to kill everyone. I think the dialogue at the gas station is terrible and just cringy. The movie inserts what seems like all the Twitter hot topics and isn't effective in my opinion. Even though I will admit, after listening to Mike and Bryan explain it a little bit, I do back off of that a little bit. If you're going to make a political movie, you need to know what message you're trying to send and do it well, like Get Out. Back to these characters and their decisions. Why the fuck does Ruth feel the need to ride in this ambulance? Of course, Dante leaves the one piece of paperwork he needs. They just let Richter take their keys. Melody just lays under the bed when a gun is right on the floor to help save Richter. How does she survive getting this 3 to 5 pound hammer launched at her and knocking her through the floor. She should have died right there, in my opinion. She seems to have no side effects from her injuries in this movie. Now we get to Sally. Why the hell is this character in this movie? It's been said ad nauseum, but it's an obvious Halloween 18 inspired ripoff. In Halloween, we get Jamie Lee Curtis. In this, we can't get Marilyn Burns because she's passed away, unfortunately. It just makes her appearance not very significant to me. She has the easiest chance to kill the man who killed her friends and does nothing. And how the hell did she survive her chainsaw incident and getting launched across the street? The bus scene was frustratingly entertaining. Cool kills and Leatherface wiped them out, but the cancel line is awful, and these idiots have him vastly outnumbered, but do nothing except just get killed one by one. Well, maybe if Catherine would have just told them what she saw, Dante dying, they'd be prepared. Also hate the ending. Since when is Leatherface an invincible killing force like Jason Voorhees? Anywho, I'll stop bitching now, but needless to say, this is a very frustrating movie. I'd still put it over a majority of this franchise because of how bad I think some of the others are, but that doesn't make this great. I gave this a 4.5 since I wrote down a 4 and a 5, so I just settled in the middle. But I will say this movie is an easy watch. It's not like it's not like boring or like just insufferable. I mean, because the gore is cool.
God, it's not boring like Texas Chainsaw 3. Oh, God.
Or 2. God, I fucking hate number 2. No offense.
Yeah, but I don't think it's boring. I understand why people don't like it. I really do. I understand. 3 is just boring as fuck. I don't understand the.
Yeah, 3 is not good either.
Okay. So, by the way, see, right there, Nicoh not only brought up great points. I disagree with a lot of his points, but they're great points, and he did it the right way. That's what discourse is. So, good job on you, buddy. Okay. My favorite kill is the same as yours. Breaking someone's, bone and stabbing them with it's pretty badass. It's hard to beat that kill. I think there's so many good kills. It's hard to pick a least favorite. You mentioned Sally, and I almost went that direction, but since you did, I'm going to go the opposite and go Ruth, because the simple stab to the gut is probably the only tame kill that we got. So I'll go with that. I've said it. I probably talked way too much on this show tonight, and I apologize for that. So I've kind of said everything I need to say about this film. Is it a masterpiece? No. Is it a masterclass of filmmaking, writing, everything else? No. But I think people are way too hard on it. I think it's a fun time. It delivers on the title. It's a good slasher flick if you don't overthink it. Now, again, there's plot holes galore. It's rushed. There's a lot of CG, all that stuff. I get it. I totally understand. But from start to finish, it flies by. I'm never bored. I think it has good enough characters. So there's a disagreement with the majority of people there on my end, and that's okay. And I think the kills are all awesome. All of them. Even the one I gave my least favorite kill to. I think it's still a good kill because you get to see it and it's gory. I love it. Doesn't shy away. And that's one more positive. This movie doesn't shy away from any of the violence. I think it's great. Love the bus scene. I love a lot of this stuff. Again, I feel like all my negatives are nitpicks. So, that being said, it's not a good follow-up to the 74 original. It's just not. It's not. You watch 74 and then you go watch this. They're two completely different genres of film almost. Whereas Halloween 78, if you watched Halloween 2018 right after that, you could kind of see the connection very much so. So I think it fails in that department. But as a standalone slasher, an installment in a franchise that's been running since 74, man, I think it's hard to beat. I mean, it's just a really fun time for a Netflix movie, popcorn, like Kevin mentioned, just sit back and eat and have a good time. So all that being said, I gave this movie a 7.5. I couldn't go any higher than that because, quite frankly, we're reaching like 8, anything that's 8 and above kind of is my territory of I love this movie. And I don't love the movie, but I really do like it.
It's an easy watch.
Yeah. Easy watch. Exactly right. Okay, so my favorite kill, y'all's is absolutely true and factual. I'll probably go Richter. That whole sequence with the leg and the head bash I thought was just crazy good. My least favorite kill, like you mentioned, is hard because the kills were definitely not the issue with this movie, in my opinion. Maybe Dante's kill because you don't really get to see the head slash, although the door effect was really cool. and then he just died. But I don't know, that would be the best kill in a lot of movies. So I mean that's saying a lot. This movie is very frustrating to me because I think it was so close. But it's not one of those where it's so close to perfect, it's still high. It's so close to perfect, but then it just jumps off a damn cliff like that first kill in Midsummer, or just old people falling off that cliff. It was an 8.5 or a 9 before the last 26 minutes, and I'll probably go a 5.75 now. Super easy watch, but I think it's frustrating from a lot of points of view as far as I'm concerned. Also, we've got Shan, who, like we've said so many times, is on the show now. We've got her write up she sent in as well. So I'll go ahead and send that, and we can add her score to the average. The original Texas movie definitely left an impression on me to this day, and different iterations of the following movies have been very hit and miss. So I decided to go into this open-minded. This movie is brutal, gory, but some of the kills were definitely creative, especially the bone one. I actually like the concept of the plot with these influencers coming in to rebuild an old town, and they inadvertently cause the death of Leatherface's mom and set off these chain of events that occur. The plot point of Sally seemed to just be trying to capitalize on the success of Halloween 18, and it could have been handled much better. I think the cinematography was well done and great shots to the film. In the end, the ability to recreate the type of feel that we got from the original film is almost impossible to duplicate. No comment from me. No matter how many different ways they try. So in the end, I didn't love the movie, but I didn't hate it either. I'd put it at a 5.5.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And I'm Casey Kasem.
And guess who fumbled the bag right now? That would be Mr. Nicoh Chin, because I have not wrote down one score.
Moment's too big. Piss down your leg, Nico.
I did. I'm sorry, guys.
I kind of want to change my score, but that's okay. We'll stick with 5.5.
No. Stick with it. It's okay.
I thought you'd go higher
radio,
on. I thought you was gonna go a little higher than 5.75, Brian. Honestly,
just because how much that ending.
I hated it. Fell off so much to me that because I said, I had it at an 8 or a 9.
That's what I'm saying. You had it up so high, then it just midsummered and fell right off the cliff.
Yeah, it did.
Our average with our 4 scores is a 5.8125, and I believe IMDb is at a 4.9 with 28,872 reviews. So we're slightly above it, but that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I liked it more than most. I totally understand that.
Dude, I mean, it's easy. It's an easy ass movie to watch.
Absolutely.
Like, I'll watch it again today when I got back from the gym. It was like,
yeah, it's super easy.
I mean, it's just, you can pop this movie on and just let it play in the background.
I would have to watch 3D again, but I think that this might be my third favorite in the franchise.
I think it's my third or fourth. I need to sit down and kind of do that again, but I would say it's third or fourth because I don't like the beginning as much as you do. It's fine.
Oh, beginning's way better than this, but that's just my opinion. Let's do our blood. Any final thoughts?
Good.
All right, let's shout out our blood donors. Really appreciate y'all. Our camp level reoccurring blood donors are Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, and Sean Irwin. Our camp counselor reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Karen, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, and Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home podcast. Our legendary blood donors are Missy Wall. We just did her review a couple weeks ago on Tourist Trap. Definitely check that out. And we also have Sean and Sarah Irwin, who we have film reviews to do for in the next couple months. Final girl donor is Danny C-Naps. We just released her donor pick of Grave Encounters a couple weeks ago. Definitely check that out as well. And our new Dream Warrior donor is David Farley. Thank you to all of our blood donors. Really appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.
Y'all take a big burden off of us.
Yes. Although Nico could probably handle it by himself with 2 collection, but we appreciate your contribution. Oh, sorry.
Didn't Mike just get his passport? International superstar.
A passport costs $35.
Going across
This
the
part
sea
does.
is
It
not
doesn't
$35.
after. Going on my honeymoon, asshole.
I'm just messing with you. Any final thoughts on Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
That's it. I had a great time, fellas.
Nope.
All right, I'll just go ahead and announce real quick. We believe that Brother Dustin is going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus. He's dealing with some things in his personal life. We're not going to go too deep into that. So I believe we're going to change up our pick next week. We're going to take on the new Scream movie, Scream 5, Scream 2022,
5 cream.
whatever you want to call it. Since it comes out this next week on digital, we're going to take on that movie. Go ahead and finish the franchise out again. And we may or may not have a big time interview earlier in the week with one of the writers of Scream.
If you liked Ready or Not and you like 5 cream, you may like this interview.
Yeah, so I'm excited to review Scream 5. It's going to be another great discussion
absolutely.
episode, I would think, just because
I
I'm
think
the
so.
one by myself when it comes to the Scream franchise. But it'll be a fun review, and I'm looking forward to it. And I know the fans, all 4 of our Scream reviews have done very good numbers, listens-wise. So I'm looking forward to reviewing it. And, it's one of the most popular movies and franchises in the world, I would say. And people want to hear our thoughts about it. So Thank you for all of our listeners and fans. We really appreciate y'all. And we'll be back next week with a couple more episodes for you. Y'all have a good one.